Hi everyone, welcome. Good morning good morning from my side. Abby, Helen, Janine, Star. Welcome guys, come in. Oh goodness me. Well, it's Friday morning here. It's actually a public holiday and I completely forgot. So I probably could have started my stream a half an hour later and had a little bit more of a sleep in, but you know, I forgot. So here I am. Now, oh, Helen, you did? Awesome. Hi Seth, welcome. I've got about 20 colours maybe in the Luminance set. They're absolutely beautiful. I will one day get the whole set and do an image with them, but at this stage, just collect them a couple at a time. But they're so nice. How exciting. So everybody enjoyed Tuesday night. We had a bit of a laugh with Laura. It was so much fun. It was. Hi Jo Beth, welcome. Welcome, welcome. If you're new, my name's Belinda. And we're finishing off a 4-week colour along. There is a playlist. I probably should have grabbed that link for you guys too, but of all of the videos. So if you go to my playlist, it will be there. And every colour along that I've done so far is also in the playlist, so you'll be able to check it out. Now there's a lot of gleam on my page, but after finishing her hair last week and finishing this stream, I think that she needs some more depth in her skin, especially just this side here. So we're going to add a little bit more depth into that, and we're going to do the background. Sound like fun? Sounds like fun. Hi Sylvie, welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Were you unwell, Jo Beth? Oh, I hope you're okay now. Hello, Shadow. Shadow's come to say hello. Now, can we hear me okay? I've moved my mic again, so hi Pat, welcome. So I'm not sure if it's loud enough for you. I can turn it up slightly there. Might help for you. So yesterday I played around for ages with backgrounds and what we were going to do today. And to tell you the truth, I still had no idea this morning when I got up, because there's just so many different things that we could do. I was going to do something a little bit more detailed, and then I thought, no, that will take us too long, and I want you guys to be able to do a background that doesn't take forever and still looks effective. So, yeah. Hi, Sean. Welcome. Good. I've just turned it up a little bit, so there's a little bit more volume there, but this particular mic picks up background as well, because it's pointing kind of towards the rest of my house, so you may hear things going on in the background. Hi Sherry, welcome. Thank you for dropping in. Thank you so much. Hi Loretta, welcome. Got your coffee? Very good. So yeah, I thought we'd do something hopefully quick but effective. I just want to show you a couple of things too that I was playing around with as I was doing it, just so you can see different ideas of how to do things. So that's what we're going to do. Hello, welcome Michelle. Everybody's just dropping in now. Lovely to see everybody. And this is our last week on Dawn Davidson, and next week we're going to be working on Halloween. We have a cute little image from Jenny Lewin, who I will introduce you to in the Facebook group coming up this week. And we'll get a free image there from her, and we're not going to do a portrait for a change. We're going to do a fun little scene for Halloween. And this whole month, actually, of October, I'm going to concentrate on some Halloween-y type images. Except for this Monday. Oh, maybe I'll make it Halloween-y. I have a new book by Vivid Publishers. Shintaka Harith has sent me his new book, so we'll do a flip through and something out of that book. And also I've got a couple of books from Nathaniel Waite coming, and a book from Julia Sperry, which I'm still waiting for as well. So we've got a few things coming up next month, but I'm going to try to make them all Halloween-y themed. It is good, Helen. Backgrounds are a pain, aren't they? Sometimes I get to the end of an image and I think, if I put a background on it, I'm going to wreck it. But no, we can make the backgrounds really complement the image, using colours that will really make this sort of part of it pop out. So we're going to have a play with that today. We don't really celebrate Halloween here, so it's nice to be able to do it here on stream for you guys. It's not really a big thing here. We do get a few trick or treaters, but hardly ever. I was just going to suggest that sometimes with an image like this, it can be better to start the background if you're not sure of what you're going to be doing, because then if you get through it and you think, no, it's not right, at least you can reprint it and start again without having done all this work and then feel like that it's ruined. However, with an image like this, I find these really good because we can actually cut out the image. It's so block that we can just cut off everything on the outside, and we can actually stick it onto a background as well, which is awesome. So great idea there is with things like this, just remember that if you do a background and you're not sure about it, you can always cut it out and stick it on something else. So maybe some digital paper. Alright, so a few things that I thought I would do. First of all, I thought maybe I'd do some like leaves just hanging down the side here. I played around with a couple of different things, like I'm just going to show you my rough ones here. So for this one, this is the colour of her top, by the way. This one I just did like used the zested in the background and blurred out some background and just did some leaves and things in there. It doesn't look quite too bad, and I really do like the colour green in there. It needs to be there. It's in her eyes and it really does make them stand out more. Then I thought maybe we could draw actual leaves. So that was my second thought. But that was going to take me far too long. But I just want to show you how I did that though before... Oh, excuse me, bumping my camera. Where is... I've got a blank piece of paper here somewhere. Here we go. Got all these pieces of paper everywhere. It is different, and they come out a lot more truer to colour, I think. Anyway, let's show you how to do some leaves. Of course, I was trying to figure out how to do something quick and something easy. Now, I struggle with getting leaves exactly the same or looking like leaves. Sometimes they come out with straight lines, and sometimes they come out weird. So... yesterday I was playing around with this piece of card. Now this is the one I used for our mermaid scales. It's a little scrappy bit of watercolor paper. It's quite thick. So yeah, this was actually done with markers and a piece of plastic. Came out quite cute, didn't it? But anyway, it's a scrap piece. I actually grabbed the scissors and I just, so if you've got card, just on the very edge of it, I'll do it on this side so I don't compromise this edge. But I just sort of cut out a little bit of a, I don't know what you'd call it, a little bit of a ditch. And I use that as a guide to draw my leaves. Because a lot of people say, I can't draw, don't do something where I have to draw. So this was something I thought could be quite handy. So to do the leaf off a bit of a twig there, I would just mark down the side, turn it over, and mark down the other side, creating a leaf. Look at that. Putting a little bit of a curved line, and there's my leaf. So I thought this could be fun. We could do this, but it's going to take me ages. If you're wanting to do something a little bit more detailed, of course, go ahead and do something like that. You could do them hanging off vines, or just do this one now. Let's do a little smaller leaf here. I'm all for making my job easier and making things look more symmetrical as well. And drawing leaves like that. So how long is this going to take me to do? And as I said, by all means, go ahead and do something like that. If you have the time to sit and spend to do that, that's fine. But I've got 2 hours to finish off her clothing and the background, and to tidy up the skin a little bit because it's still a little bit light. So this will take me probably another 2 sessions to finish. It's gonna, she is a little brat, that one, isn't she? I can hear her meowing in the background there. She's having a bit of fun. So I guess in a way, I found a good template, something easy like the mermaid scales that we can do to create some really nice shaped leaves. But we're not going to do that. Would take too long. Exactly. And welcome, Linda. If you've got a stencil or something like that that you could use for that, fantastic idea. Grab a stamp and leaf them in. I don't have a lot of stamps. I have some, a couple of little things, but nothing completely, you know, like that. Let me just see if I can find my stamps. Yeah, I've only got like mermaids and things like that, so not much that I could use as leaves. But you could use anything like digital paper. This is just scrapbook paper. This has got some pretty little patterns on it. Yeah, just stuff like that, or some roses and things in the background. Anything like that would look good as well. Stick it on, have a go. Have a go. I've got a whole heap of stencils that I had from scrapbooking. There's some shapes on here, just stencils. Some stencils of flowers. These are Jane Davenport ones. But there's loads of things that you could use in the background. These are some old Creative Memories ones I had as well. Look at this beautiful little thing here that I was using. You can lay it down on your paper and then you can dust over it with some PanPastel or something, and it'll leave a silhouette of a tree. I've got Christmas ones. I've got all sorts of things in here that I could use, but then I'm sort of then looking at, what about you guys who don't have that kind of thing? I mean, us that do, fantastic. We can go and find a beautiful background quite easily. I've also got some die cuts, things like this, that can be used. This has got heaps of leaves in it. I could do lots of different things and just stick them on the page. Loads of things that I could do. So that's a great idea for backgrounds. They do. They get done really quickly and they're easy to do. So I hope that gives you some idea of what you could do. I'm going to create a really rough looking tree and do some sky. So 2 options. I need a glove because I'm going to be working over her face. You could start with the sky first and then go and fill in your tree, which I think we might do. Or you can start with your tree and then fill the sky up around it. A moon would look cool, I agree. I was thinking about doing a night sky and doing, hi May, welcome, maybe doing a moon and some dark sky around her. But I really wanted to make her eyes pop out, and I figured putting green in the background was going to do that. She's going to have a really dark blue top on. So I figured a night sky might not work so well with what I want to do, but yes, we could do that. We could have done some sort of lantern up in the corner here. We would have needed to add a bit of, say, yellow or something to the skin, which would be easy because I haven't pushed too much pressure down. And with polys, they go over things again quite easily. So yeah, you could do something like that with a lantern in the corner and just have the rest of it really dark. There's so many things that you could do with backgrounds, really. So many things, but it's I guess it's an imagination thing too. You might find that you get to and go, I have no idea what to do. So I guess I'm trying to give you a few ideas of where you could go with it. I was even thinking I could do like a cherry blossom. Cherry blossoms are really easy to draw in because it'll be far away. You wouldn't need to do any actual details as such, so you just be putting dots and lines basically, which is what we're going to do with our tree. We're going to use some lines to make a tree. Very easy, hardly any drawing at all, mostly just scribbling. Okay. Hi Shannon, welcome, and hello to anyone else who dropped in then when I was chatting away. I was flicking through my files trying to pull out my scrapbook stuff so I could show you, but potato stamps, there you go. You could do potato stamps, do a whole heap of little leaves and do some silhouettes of leaves all over it. Or what you could also do is, if you're wanting to do some sort of splatter effect in the background, reprint the same image, same size on a scrap piece of paper, so normal copy paper, laid over the top of her so she's got a mask on her, and then you can just go ahead and you can do some splatters and all sorts of things in the background there too. So you'll have to go back and watch the other videos, Seth. Pretty easily, actually. So what we're going to do is, first of all, I might do the background first, but I do believe that the skin needs something a little bit more in it. It's now dulled off a lot since we've put in this beautiful, bright, brilliant hair. And once we put in her blue top, this is going to really fade out. So I really want to add a little bit more color into that at the end, just to make it stand out a little bit more and just to add a little bit more depth. So we want to have a fair bit of contrast, and at the moment there's not enough dark in there. We've got plenty of light, but I think we need some more dark. So we'll work on that later. So let's start on the sky. Oh, also, I'm using Strathmore Bristol vellum surface paper, and I just ordered some more actually on Amazon. They had some on sale, and I also ordered some more of the XL watercolor paper. Thanks, Helen, for telling me about that. It was only like $5 American or something. It was brilliant, but for me it cost like $15 to get it posted, and anyway, it ends up costing more. I've put some Zest It pencil blend on a couple of cotton pads in a little dish here, or you could use the sponge. I've just got some cotton pads there. I had some left over, so I've just stuck them in there to keep them wet. And I may not use that for everything, but I will be using it for the blue part of the sky, just to smooth it off so we don't need to do a lot of pencil work, because, you know, it's all hands and all. I've got my Polychromos pencils here. The colour list link is in the description below if you would like to grab it. It's on Patreon as a public post so everyone can see it. And the image is only going to be available for... what's the date? 1, 2, 3... 3 more days. So you better grab it if you want to grab it. Link is in the description as well. Let me see if I can grab that link for you. Oh, my little windows shrunk a bit. Let me just grab that link. So that's a link for the image. I'm hoping it gets you there. I hope I got the whole thing. And in the description is a link for the color list there as well. And this is Curly Locks by Dawn Davidson. And if you're watching this later on, it's still going to be available in her Etsy store, so you can go and purchase it there as well. Hi Shara, welcome. It's been a while. Haven't seen you for a bit. Who else has just popped in there that I've missed? Welcome everybody. Okay, let's get started. I've got a couple of different colors. I have a little bit of light phthalo blue and light ultramarine. Let's just have a look at these colors. The back of my page here. So the light phthalo blue is lighter than the ultramarine. The ultramarine's got a little bit of a purple color to it, which I really like because we put purple in some of the skin. So I'm going to use both of those. But first of all, we're going to use the lighter one. So I'm going to use the light phthalo blue first. Ugh, let me just move everything out of the way. And I need to do something here with my background. Let me just move this camera up a little bit. That didn't really work, but anyway, let's turn it on the side. So let's draw some clouds. I'm going to use a black pen just to give you an example, or a dark coloured pencil first to give you an example. That's it. Let's do some fluffier, thicker ones. And let's just do some long, thin ones. That's all it is. Nothing special. If you want them rounder looking, don't put the little sharp edges. We're just going to do some clouds. Alright, so we'll use our lightest pencil, which was the light phthalo blue. And we're going to draw, I'm going to concentrate on drawing the actual clouds on this side, because this side we're going to have a tree. So we're still going to need some colour in there, but I'm not going to be drawing any details. I might be able to put perhaps a cloud down the bottom here, maybe in the background, which I'll do now, but that's pretty much as far as I'm going to go with that. So just drawing it in, just roughly. And then the rest of it's just going to be blue on that side. Let's just ignore that side now. Let's draw a few on this side. I'm going to do one that's coming out from the side here. And perhaps one across the top there, but a more smooth one. And let's do one there, and one across the bottom there. That will do. Okay, so I've marked them in. Now I'm going to go around them just lightly. So we're just left with a white space there. You'll be able to see it more clearly once we start to fill out this blue around the outside. Just using light pressure, don't put any pressure down on the paper. Linda. wonder. They make an angel cry. Aww. I think I might just need another little peeking out there. So the white of the clouds adds a little bit of contrast, and we'll just add a tiny little bit of depth in there after with the other blue that I've got there. I think this one needs a little bit more flat across the bottom there. Just reshaping them as I go. And I'm wearing my gloves so I don't smudge over the image as I'm running down it. I'm going to make that one 2 clouds. Sitting there. All the way down here. We're going to put a little tree down here in the corner, but we still want to add some colour in there. Hello, shadow. Come to say hello again. And let's just go right across the top here. Just really lightly, I'm doing it across the top. And down the side here, because I'm going to be drawing my tree in here, so I don't need too much in there, just enough to have the blue behind the tree when I'm done. I don't know if I want a cloud there yet. I'm just going to cover over that because I'm not sure. Might look a little strange. Okay, I'm going to go in the opposite direction now. Just filling in some pigment on the page. So when I come over with my Zest It, there's plenty of pigment there to move around and smooth off. If we don't do enough, it will just look blotchy anyway, so we want to make sure we put plenty on. Any gaps that we make, we can make into clouds anyway. Okay, just stopping here because I'm going to be doing green on the other side, so I don't need to work on that one as much. Keeping my grip on my pencil right at the end again so that I'm not putting too much pressure down. I've said that a few times before. Okay, so this side's looking like there's some clouds. We've got plenty of colour. I want to add in a little bit of the light ultramarine now. Hi Cab, welcome. Yes, I'm just at the moment. We're going to concentrate on this side and then we'll work on to the other side in a bit. Okay, so using the light ultramarine, I'm going to actually come underneath the cloud. just to add a little bit of depth. Just working under it. Just like that. Okay. Now we can use a little bit of the coal grey too. I'm going to be using this in her top, but I can just add a little bit of this into the tops of the cloud. Just roughly laying in a little bit of colour, make them look like they've got some, I don't know, fluffiness to them, I guess. Adding a little bit on the bottom of the cloud as well. Just roughly putting some colour in. Do you want me to zoom in a little bit? It's really bright too, I just noticed. Let me just get rid of some of that light. So I've just gone up on the top of it, created some little creases and done also the same underneath. So we've just created a little bit of depth on the top as well. The rest of the cloud we're just going to leave as white paper. Alright, let's go ahead now and use our Zest It. Just got a flat brush. And I've got some on cotton pad here. Just blending it out with the brush. Just smoothing it out so it's nice and smooth. I'm still going to be able to see some paper texture, and that's okay. The sky isn't all one colour, so well, depends on the day, I guess. Crystal clear day it might be. Oh no, I just got a hair. Bummer. I'll have to go around that with a bit more blue, I think. She's got a bit of smudging out there. Just be careful near the hair. We had so much fun on Tuesday, didn't we, May? If you're still here. Bit of mindless work. Time to sit and watch the TV and, or listen to the TV is what I do, and scratch away at the paper without too much worry. Brittany, Zest It is a pencil solvent. So it's called a pencil blend. Gamsol, Vaseline, anything like that will do a similar type thing. And it just makes it easy for those that have, this whole 4 weeks we've been talking about taking it easy for those that have issues with their hands. So using a paintbrush rather than pushing pressure down with pencil is really helpful when it comes to having arthritis, carpal tunnel, things like that, which I have both. How cool is that? Alright, that's most of my background. Now it's still going to be wet, so I'm just going to wait until it dries while I'm doing the opposite side, and then we can come back over with another layer of pencil. Let's start our tree. So on this side, well, just down here actually, I just want to mark out, I've got a couple of different greens here. I'm just going to use some of the juniper green, because that's the first one I picked up. And I'm just going to roughly mark in some trees here, just some tall triangular shaped trees. And I'm just going to add that down the bottom here as well. And I'll get to this section in a moment. We're going to have to put a line here because I think that looks kind of strange and it's sitting really weird, and I want to put a bit of a line in here, and we'll put some in the background here as well. Okay, now we want to draw out our tree. I'm going to use, let's see, permanent green first. Permanent green. Just marking roughly over the top of these. These are going to be all blurred out, so we're not going to see any details in these. Could probably put one in the background there too. So we won't be able to see those very clearly. They're just going to be some, you know, in the background there somewhere. We could also do a few of those on this side. Just do a couple of those there. In the very, very background there. And I'm actually going to draw a bit of a fluffy bit of a cloud there too. Just like that. Can you see that? Just messy. No details, just a cloud. A green cloud. Alright, now we're going to start working on our tree. Probably thinking about here we might start. What I'm going to do is do some little patches of green. Just randomly. No pattern. Just coming up. Adding a few patches of green. A little bit there. Keep moving all the way up to the top of the page. Oh, this is looking really weird, isn't it? Don't worry, it gets better. These are going to be little bunches of leaves, I guess we would call them. Okay. Let's do another little one out here. Hi Kimmy, welcome. Hi Jen, welcome. Hi Joey, welcome. Guys, come in. I'm working on. Hi Senkel, welcome, or CC. Did I write you down before? I think I did, didn't I? No, it wasn't you I wrote down. This picture, Brittany, is from Dawn Davidson. There is a link in the description where you can grab it for free at the moment. I'll pop it in the description in the chat box here again as well, if you would like to grab it. And make sure that you don't share it anywhere uncolored. And if you are going to color it, share it in your groups or on your social media, and make sure you try to tag Dawn Davidson. All right, now moving up to the next color, I've got May green. May, I've got you, you're green. Green. Let's use it. Okay, above that, I'm going to do a little bit more of a squiggle. Just coming in on the top of those. So as I said, these are our bunches of leaves, and we will gradually start joining things together as well. So I'm just coming over, laying down the colour. Okay, so we've got some little green patches. On the tops of those, I'm going to add in some light green. And I'm actually just going to use circular motions, and create some light areas on our tips of our branches, especially just here on the edges where the light is going to be coming across. Just going to bridge the gaps a little bit. I'm going to leave some of that sky through there though. Some gaps, I guess. Just using those circles in there just to fill in some more colour. Just making it a little bit lighter on the left side as well, because our light is coming from this direction. We do already know that. So we do want those areas to be lighter. Okay, so we're gradually filling it in. Let's colour some of this tree down here as well with the lighter colour. Just on the edge of the tree there. Adding a little bit in here as well onto the left side of the trees. Making them lighter on that side. I'm just increasing the colour around the outside of our cloud a little bit there. Okay, I'm going to start to add in some darker colour now. I've got the juniper green. And I'm just going to come underneath those darker areas in a bit of a curve shape, concentrating a little bit to the right of the branches. So underneath each of these tufts of leaves, I guess. Tuft, I don't know what they're called. Bunches of leaves. I'm just going to add in a little bit of this green underneath now. Using circular motions, and I'm kind of bringing it up into a bit of a curve so that the right side is darker. If you can see that there. Darker on this side. Darker on that side. Darker on that side. using circular motions, and I'm kind of coming up in a bit of a curve. We need a little bit in there. Now you can start to see where those little sections of leaves are going to be. You might want to go in now and just sort of mark in a few smaller sections throughout. So simple, no details, just scribbles. Don't think too much about it. Now I'm just going down this side, adding a little bit of depth in there. So remember, our face, our depth is on this side, so we want to try to do the same with these trees if we can. Try to keep a darker side. Ooh, we're going to the dark side. How's he looking? I'm just going to join up some of those sections now. Just joining them together. There's a couple of gaps of blue still. That's fine. So I've made those bottoms look a little bit more rounded rather than flat like we had originally. And we want to make this nice and dark in here. Just going up the edge there. Okay, how are we looking so far? Everyone got it? Pretty simple. Do you think we could do it? Okay, we're going to add a little bit darker now. Got pine green. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start to mark out some branches. So let's have a look through here. Okay, maybe I'll use Caput Mortem. Just going to put a line. And just down here, and actually maybe I'll just branch that off that way. So it's joined to that. So there's our bunch there. Obviously we're going to make this look a little bit thicker in a moment, but I'm just drawing it out at this stage. So coming down the side there. So this tree here is going to be a lot closer than these ones in the background here. This one in the background here is a lot further away. Just putting a few spots in there to make that look like it's a tree. Thickening up the branches now. And what we're going to do is just sort of bring that trunk, I guess we call it, up here. And just stretch it out, make it disappear up into this corner up here. We're just going into the light sections. We're not even doing a full line. We're just sort of, I guess we're just putting sections in there to make it look like we've got some branches in there. Might have some crossing over here. Done, done and done. Don't think about it too much. Bit more of that. We didn't put any juniper green down here. Just want to do that. And that's our tree. Now let's do some details. So pine green. I'm going to really darken up that, just lining underneath each of those sections, really kind of like a, hang on, let me just zoom in so you can see that, kind of like a bit of a squiggly line, just to make it look, oh, don't break your pencil guys, you don't need to do that, just make it look kind of jagged underneath each of those bunches. Just on the sides. You do that. Just adding some contrast. You know how we were talking about the skin a second ago with contrast? You need to add some dark and light. So we're doing our dark now. Really adding in some depth in here. And the depth is the details, so you can really see them too. Is it looking like a tree yet? Can we see it? Are we just imagining it? I'm going to add some black in there as well, Joey, just to add some shadow on one side. But we've used it in the skin, so I think it's safe to use it in other areas on the image. I think we're starting to look like a tree. Squiggly lines in there. Just really rough, eh? Is it quick and effective? Yes. Does it look like a tree? A little bit. I think our eyes automatically fill in the details. When we see small details on things like this, we automatically know that it's a tree. I mean, we can make pictures out of clouds, so it's quite amazing what we can do. Okay, moving down, just want to add a few of those little squiggles on the branch areas of this one down here. I don't want to put too much detail down here. We want to try and keep it quite rough. Just some dots. Just some dots. Alright, let's go back in with the, what was the next darkest colour? Juniper green. Just going to add a little bit in there. Done it mainly where the branches were popping through there and just on this side of the tree. Keep this side quite dark. Circular motions. Creating our branches, our bunches, I guess, of leaves. black. Yellow, black. Add a bit of depth on one side. And let's add a little bit of depth into the tree on this side as well, underneath him. Just a bit of shading. Create some shadows. And let's add some depth to these branches as well. Need to add a couple more. Make it look a bit more like tree-like. Make like a tree. Make like a tree. Let's add a little bit of black down here. Just on this side of the tree. Underneath it a bit. Did we make like a tree? I think we did. Okay, I'm going to go back to shading now. What do we use first? Permanent green. Where did you go? There it is, over here, hiding. Permanent green. Just shading. I'm just using pencil hand is way back here at the end of the pencil. Pencil's almost completely flat, and I'm just going in circles on the bottom of each of these little bush branches. What are they? Come on, peoples. Give me some ideas. Hi, Lulu. Welcome. Hi, Elaine. Welcome. Leslie, hello. Welcome, guys. Come in and come and join. Hi, Holly. How are you, sweetheart? I hope you're feeling a little bit better. Who else have we got? Is that it? Every time I look down, people come in. So it does make her eyes pop. I told you, you gotta have it. You need green. Definitely needed that green just to make her, we want the background to really make the foreground pop out, which is what we've done. We've got green and blue in her eyes. So we've got blue on one side, green on the other. I think it really just makes her completed. It really does. May green. Hi Rochelle, welcome. May green over the top of that. Just got my pencil on the side. Again, I'm going to add a little bit of that into the side of this tree as well. And just under those little branch areas. Coming in now and starting to fill in the branches a little bit. So we've already done our outline of the tree now, so we're just going in and filling in the colour, keeping it nice and blurry looking. And then the light green, which is the lightest green that we've used. Yeah, all right, let's do that light green. Giving us our little highlight tips. To the very edge there. Now there's still a couple of areas there where I've left blue sky coming through, which will come back in a moment, and we'll add that blue back in there a little bit, just to put it into the background. I'm glad I moved that, I'm glad I moved that cloud. I don't think it looked right there. Would have just been out of place, I think. I've almost flattened off the tooth too, like we've got hardly any tooth left on there. So coming in with a little bit of the light phthalo blue just in between, just really lightly filling in those gaps. Giving it the illusion of breaks in those branches. And now that I've finished that, I'm just going to do another layer over what we did before. Just in this tree here, I'm going to go back in with terracotta and add a little bit of terracotta. Through there. The branches. Also, just going to pop a couple of little spots of this on the darker side of each of these as well. Just adding a little bit more detail without adding detail, of course. Just so we can see a little bit of brown. It's actually more orange through here, but just through those tree leaves, which might be other parts of branches. It might be rotten leaves, something like that in there. And I just scribbled that in, just adding the colour in. Okay, now a little bit more black on this edge of the tree. Just really darkening that up now. She's got this really nice afternoon, you know, afternoon sky look about it. I don't know, yeah? Is that what I'm trying to portray, maybe? It reminds me of afternoon, I don't know why. Just using black just to shade in some of those really darker sides of the tree. Of the branches, of the bunches, of the whatever, of the leaves. Creating a little bit more depth in there. Just using really light pressure, just shading it. I'm not completely filling that in with black. Got my brush. I'm going to actually use a smaller brush for the tree branches, and I'm just going to dab in and smooth out some of that, just blurring it a bit so that it looks like it is further back. So just dabbing some on my brush and then just coming over and just dabbing a few spots through here. We want it to look a little bit blurry. I actually quite like the texture through it. I think that it gives it character, and it does make it look like there is white space coming through the trees, but I want it to look blurry, so I'm just going to blur it off a little bit. And by doing this, I'm not smudging the colour into itself, so I'm not like smudging the blue into the green too much. Now I can see by doing this that I'm going to need to add a little bit more depth under some of these. Now around these, I'm just going to do straight lines. Just cleaning that brush off a little bit now. Just zoom out a little bit. You can see it in perspective. We're going to go back in with a second layer of colour and just build that up. Just coming in down the bottom here, dabbing down in there as well, getting that tree nice and fluffy looking. I don't know what kind of tree this one is, but these are like Christmas tree type things. I don't know, what are these ones? They're like hedges, ones that make hedges. I don't know what they are. They're green. They're green. They're trees because they're green. How are we looking? Pretty good. Hi Bella, welcome. Hello Jubes, mother. Jubes is my mum. She's watching, are you? Watching some magic happen on paper as we create these pretty little trees and details in the background. Okay, for now I'm happy with that. I'm actually going to leave it, and we're going to work on her top. We'll come back to the trees and that. We'll add a few more details with the darker color again. Just over this side I think needs a little bit more darker areas just in under some of these bunches, so we'll do that in a moment. Let's do her top first. Just balance it out a little bit. Aspen trees. Thanks, Michelle. Hi, Angela. Welcome. So, pine trees. Yeah, they could be pine trees. Pine trees usually have like branches and things though, don't they? Alright, let's talk about this top. This here is not this arm, haha. This arm and this part here aren't quite right. I'm not happy with how that looks. So I'm just going to do something strange maybe to you guys, but I'm just going to go and put a line in down here. You see that? And here I'm going to do the same thing. I'm kind of going to curve this line though. I want this to be shaped like her bust. So I'm going to come around and down. Because when I was starting to practice color this, it looked kind of weird. I wasn't sort of like, I was like, hang on, there's something not quite right here. So let's just create a bit of a gap. Now we're going to sort of match this side. I'm going to put a little bit of pine green in here. I don't know, she's standing in front of trees, so just made sense to me. And just a bit here and a bit here. Just nice and dark. There's nothing there, it's just blurry mess. We don't know what's right behind her. Alright. Now it looks like it's got a bit of shape. Might still be the wrong shape there, but I get the idea. Oh, that's a bit better. So we've done nothing in there. We just made it green to go with the background, green and black. Let's just blend that in a little bit. Just smudging it out a little bit. Might need to go darker in here because there was some skin color there, so there's already a fair bit of pigment in there. That is much better. I'm much happier, and I think we can do the top a little bit easier. Yeah, I found that the shape was kind of odd and it didn't quite fit right with what I was trying to achieve. So we want to add, you know what, she's not going to have much of a highlight on her top because I think a lot of the direction of the light is coming up here. So a fair bit of this is actually going to be quite dark. So I ended up going with dark blue because I felt it was probably a better way to go. I've got black and I'm just going to come in and do a light shading of black around her top here. I want to make this bottom section a lot darker than this top part here because I want to make it look like she's got a bust and a waist. Hence why I did the line down there just to give her a bit more of a waist. And we're just going to come in. I'm doing it on a bit of an angle, the pencil, so I can see my lines and what I'm trying to do. Just coming in. Marking out all of this dark. Now we want to do the same here. I want to add a little bit of depth underneath her bust. Just kind of staying on a bit of an angle so we're not going to see a lot of that side. Here. Just going going to do a dark line down there. And then shade on either side of it. We need to shade a bit of an angle down here. Kind of trying to create a little bit of shape, I guess, is what I'm trying to do. It's kind of hard because this side's a lot larger than this side. So we're going to pretend that she's kind of facing us on that kind of an angle. So she's going to have a fair bit of a cast shadow on this side. Don't be afraid to use the black, especially because I'm using it so light and we're going to be using such a nice dark blue. We're going to cover over a lot of that anyway. You're not going to be able to see any black. It's going to be blue. Okay, I think we'll have a bit of a shadow here. Just a little bit, and I definitely have more shadow here. Just gradually creating some shape. It up. Not too, I think that's pretty good. Let's just stick with that for now. Bit of a shadow behind this ribbon here. Alright. Add a tiny little bit across the top there. Let's add in some blue, starting with the darkest blue, which is dark indigo. It does become a little bit of an obsession, doesn't it? But I find that I only use a few sets. Trying to use a bit of everything recently. So I'm coming over the top of the black with the dark indigo, and I'm laying down a nice thick layer, but I'm still using light pressure. So I'm just building it up by going back over the same area more than once. And this is how we're going to cover up that black. It's just making the dark indigo even darker by adding it underneath it. What is the time? Hey, we better do a giveaway. Sounds good. It's the last one for this one, so we should do that. Those that have already won something from Dawn Davidson the last 3 weeks, I will ask that you stay quiet during the giveaway so everybody can have a chance. And let's do giveaway rules and stuff, eh? Sounds good to me. I just realized the time. Time flies when you're having fun. Gradually doing layers upon layers, just filling in the tooth of the paper. Nice and dark. You might be going deaf. I was sort of looking away and I was kind of whispering then. But we're going to do a giveaway. So I'll put on the giveaway video with the rules, and then we'll have a chat about the rules, and then we'll get started. So guys, pick one number between 1 and 100. Only one number per person. The first person to call that number owns that number. No chatting during number calling until the winning number is drawn. No numbers before the words go, go, go or after stop, stop, stop will be counted. The number closest to the generated number without going over the generated number wins. So make sure that you are on live chat and not top chat. So click on the little box above your chat, make sure that it's on the live chat showing. Any giveaway or promotion is in no way sponsored, endorsed or administered by or associated with YouTube, Facebook, Instagram or Dawn Davidson. How do we go? I'm pooped now. Okay. Well, that looks kind of strange with the light on it like that. She's starting to look really good. Who's ready? And who doesn't understand the rules? If you would like me to go over them again, let me know. Just putting up my little disclaimer. The winner of the giveaway today will be able to have their choice of a single digital image from Dawn Davidson's Etsy shop. You will need to email me with your choice of image and your details, just your email, so I can get it off to Dawn so she can send it to you. So that's her Etsy store, guys, so make sure you check that out. So whoever wins today gets a choice of image from her store. It is a digital image. All right, are we ready? Are we ready? I've seen a couple of readies. Make sure you're on live chat, guys. I only see like 4 readies. Is there only 4 people here? Let me look. Maybe there is. Oh, no, there's 35 people here. Come on, guys. Are you ready? Ready. Yay! Ready, yay! Good guys, thank you. Ready, ready, ready. I guess you probably all got your numbers sitting in there ready to go. Good luck, everybody. I'm going to give you a minute and a half. So get in there quickly. I've just got to get my timer up here. And start. And we'll do the draw. The random number draw is off random.org. Something it is. Random. Alright, so I've gone over all the black and I'm just going to gradually come into the lighter areas on that side. Maybe I'll fill this in while you guys are all numbering up. Just going over all the black at the moment still. I love when the image starts to come together and you can see it creating, you know, shape and depth, and oh, it's looking good. We haven't got 35 entries yet though. Come on guys, couple more seconds. Don't forget there is a time difference. That's why we're doing it in live chat, because my alarm will go off ages after you guys are supposed to be finishing. Alrighty, that's it. Let's go to random.org. Random.org. 1 to 100 generate. The winning number is number 10, a low one this time. Anyone get a low number that didn't go over number 10? We might have to redraw it. Alright, I'm going to redraw it. We haven't got anyone below 10. Regenerate. 31 is the new number. Who got closest to 31 without going over it? We had a 13, we had a 24. 24, I think might be it. Everyone just check with me. Admins. Admins, we had 24, Cassandra. Is the closest to 31. I already redrew it. Number 31 is a new number. The winner is going to be Cassandra. Alright. Cassandra, well done. I don't think we've ever had one where we've had to, no one's been under it. That's weird. All good. Alright, so Cassandra, I'm going to just pop up my email. Send me an email with your choice of image from her Etsy store, and I will send it off for you and she will send it. There is a big time lag, I know. I know. I don't know how though, like I've got it on low latency, so it shouldn't be so bad, but it is. It's a huge time gap. Huge time gap. She looks like she's got 2 stoplights on her chest right now. Stop in the name of love before you break my heart. Anyway. You know what would have been cool in the background too? A marketplace or something. If I was that clever, that would have been cool. Would have been cool. Now I still have a nice sharp pencil because I've been gradually turning my pencil around every time I come over, so I've still got a nice sharp pencil. And what I'm actually going to do is just go around the little eyelets here. Just going to make them the same color as a top, but just want them to stand out slightly. Just going around the strings. Are there strings on me? Anyway. So it's grand final day here tomorrow. The football. And just hoping that Richmond wins. I think they worked very hard this season. It's great. Alright, why is this looking darker down here? Let's just darken this up here. I can only see it when I'm looking in the camera though, so I think it's just the light. Just darkening this up. Alright, I'm just going to come a little bit out and into this area now. Gradually building in the gaps. It's starting to dry up here now and it's looking a little bit more flat, which I like. I hope you guys like that background, and I hope that the other little tips help too. Actually, hubby, the kids got him a game for Father's Day. It's a dad joke game. Pretty cute. And they had these little tiny cards. And he popped all the little cards out and he gives me the cardboard. He goes, hey, this would be a good brick wall background template. Oh my god, it's pretty cool. So this is what it looks like. Just looks like that. It's just like where the little cards were, and it's quite flat on one side. So I think if you were to lay it down and you could use it as a, like, trace those spots and make some sort of trellis or brick wall, or you could lay in some pastel and have just squares in the background. I went, oh, that's handy. A little bit of fun. Obviously not everyone's going to have it though, but still, it's an idea. Alright, next colour is Indanthrene Blue. They're playing GWS. Who is that? Greater Western Sydney, is that right? Is that their Sydney? Greater Western, yeah, I think that's right. Indanthrene Blue, sorry, it's Indanthrone in the Polychromos, Prismacolor set, and it's Indanthrene in the Polychromos set. Just coming over the top of all of those darker areas, building up the colour and the depth in there, and then bringing it out over the lighter areas. I just used my mono eraser. I've just gone over the white top a little bit there. I don't want to do that. We do want to make that white. I don't know why I picked white, but I figured it would most likely be white. Or cream, I don't know. I can't believe we've nearly finished this image. Some of them seems like they take a lot longer, but it's only 4 weeks still. Illusion. I should have a chat with Matt Davidson and do one with him as well. Hey guys, what do you think? He's got some different stuff. He's got a more futuristic type fantasy, which is different. It's not something that I do a lot of. Just coming over the top of this whole section now in the middle as well. Okay, Cassandra, did you choose an image already? What did you choose? She just brought out some awesome Halloween stuff actually this week. Just a little bit darker there. Oh, rattle, rattle, rattle. Oh, slipped over the edge. Awesome. Send me an email, but yeah, all good. Too excited. Just gonna do really lightly in that area there. Is my mum still there? You still there, mummy? Are you my mummy? Doctor Who reference. Pretty good episode, actually. I've got some lines in the paper. If I zoom in and show you, this is why I'm going to use the Zest It. Can you see those little, all these little, like, this is the tooth of the paper. This is the roughness of the paper underneath here. So this is why I'm using the Zest It, and I mean, I could flatten that tooth out with just pencil, but it's going to just take a lot of pressure, and I don't want to put a lot of pressure on my hands, so I'm going to use the Zest It. Normally I wouldn't use Zest It, but like I said earlier, this is for those that can't put pressure down. But look at all these lines and indentations. This is from the bumps and grooves, the paper being bashed around, and because I've scanned it a couple of times now and bashed it about. It's got all of these lines and crevices, but the Zest It will help us push the pigment back into the paper, and it will get rid of all of that for us, so we won't be able to see it, thankfully. Where are you going for lunch? Nice to be invited. No, too busy. Oh, that's right. You're going out with... I remember now. All good. Enjoy your lunch. I think my Nana would have liked my channel. What do you think? I'm just erasing the little red bit in the middle. I'm going to zoom back out again now, and I'm going to use the last color on my list, which is Helio Blue Reddish. Yes, Craig, happy birthday. Coming over everything now. This is our final layer of color. Just a nice even layer over the whole lot. It does look like material actually, a little bit of texture. Could leave it like that if you would like. I'm not going to. I would love to see you guys do some sort of background that's different to this and share it up. Perhaps one of the ideas that I've talked about. Or you can just follow along, of course. I'm just going to zoom out a little bit again. We're nearly done. It's so weird getting to this point and going, oh, I don't have that much to do now. Just changing my angle a little bit there. Good layer over it. Love this blue. But I didn't draw. I just scribbled. Didn't you see it? I scribbled. No drawing, just scribbling. I can't draw. What are you talking about? I don't want to make it too intimidating for those new people who haven't coloured before. I want everybody to be able to have a go. I love seeing newbies work and how it progresses. I guess that's why I do what I do, hey? Alright. Let's do it. This is going to be messy. So, before I do the blue in the top, I'm going to put my glove back on. You wish you could scribble. It's funny. Before I do that, I want to work on her top. I've got some cold grey 4, and I'm going to go into the lined areas here and just add a bit of a shadow into these areas. So they're already marked out for us. I'm just going in and scribbling literally over the top of them, and just coming underneath this ribbed part of the top there, creating a little bit of a shadow in there. As I said, a lot of it's already marked out, so we're just going over it. Okay, and I've gone over it with, I don't know, fairly firm pressure. really solidifying them. Now, just really lightly coming out from there, really lightly, pencil on the side again. Remember, our light source is coming from the left side of the page, so we're going to have some fairly dark shadows on the right hand side of each of these sections. In fact, this whole side will probably be quite dark. Have a bit of a shadow over it. Coming across the bottom. So even though the top is white, we want to add some color in there so that you can see that it's white. Strange, isn't it? But there's still going to be shadows on it. So that's what we're doing now. Building in these shadows. Just going to extend that one up a little bit. Coming underneath the ribbing part where it's all bunched up. And there's a couple of lines through the front of the top where the ribbing sort of bunched that top up and it's all sort of creased and crinkled under there. Alright, now we're going to work on the ribbing. Oh wait, let's just put a little bit of a shading there. Just really lightly. And I'm just going to line out these shadow areas. There's not a lot of detail in here and I don't want to spend too much time on it. I just want to create the illusion that it's bunched up and the fabric's not completely smooth. So adding in this. I didn't want to go too dark with the greys either because I don't want it to look like a grey top. I do want it to be mainly white. Off-white. She does look like some sort of princess with that blue, doesn't she? Very royal. Next colour is Cool Grey or Cold Grey 2. Just coming over the top of the areas I've done really lightly, coming out a little bit further. Just really softly going across the bottom there. I'm not going to do anything else on the ribbing, I'm just going to leave that and add white in a moment. And then really lightly coming over again with some cool grey one, cold grey one I should say. It's cool grey in the Prismacolors, it's cold grey in the Polychromos. Just coming over the top of what I've already done and just extending a little bit further out. I'm going to use this just over the rest of this area here in the top and just really lightly over that bunched up area there. Just being quite rough but just adding a little bit of colour. Now just notice there's a tiny little bit of background there. I'm just going to add in a bit of green there just to fill that background in. Alright, let's do white. Sorry, this is Dawn Davidson. This image, I'm using the Polychromos white to do this bit. It's a nice firm white, but I think it's not quite as opaque as Prismacolor or the Luminance, so it's really going to soften off that grey for me. And I'm using firm pressure here. I'm just pushing down the tooth of the paper and filling in those areas. Just leaving the darkest grey areas until last so I don't smudge that out over the lighter areas. There's a bit of blue there, just trying to stay out of the blue top. That's why I thought I'd wait and we'll blend that out last, because it might make a little bit of a mess. It's looking good. I can hear the kettle. Must be kettle time. Tea time. What's the time? Oh, almost finished time. I think we've made a really good time. I just want to put a little bit more detail into the skin. I think I wanted to wait till I put in the background, make sure that was in there, and I'll be able to see then if I need to add a little bit more depth or not. And I think I do. So we still have to do that yet. And I just finish off this top. Bye, Mum. Thanks for dropping in. Alicia was kind enough to set her up so she could come in and chat when she was there last. There is a really big time delay. Really big. Alright, done. If you want, you can go back in with the grey and just darken up that darker area, which I'm actually going to just redefine them a little bit. More of a shadow behind the hair there too. Okay. Grabbing my big brush and zest it. I'm just starting from the middle and I'm just going to circle my way out to the very edge. Clean it off again. Just being really careful around that ribbon, and I'll come back over that with white, I think. Don't want to add too much of the darker colour into those lighter sections we made earlier. I'm going to try and keep them nice and light. it still looks like material. It's still got a bit of texture. Lovely. I really liked doing this one. She ended up coming out really pretty. She kind of reminds me of me. I guess that's how we colour, or how we draw versions of ourselves. That's what Jane Davenport says. In my younger days, maybe. Miranda, welcome. I haven't seen you for a little while. Hope everything's okay. Oh, I moved some colour then and it didn't go very smoothly. That's better. Needed to pick it up, push it around. There we go. Let that dry off and lighten a bit. Oh, it is cuppa time. Morning tea time. Thank you. Alright, so we need a few things. One, I've got a white Prismacolor. I'm just gonna colour this little cross in white. Prismacolor is a lot softer and it's going to come up, cover over some of that blue that actually went in there. Just going to lighten up those little sections around the outside there. You could even do them a brown or a yellow, make them look like metal. I quite like that though. Let's just zoom right out and see how it looks together. Alright, we definitely need some more colour in her face. So I did put on the list all of the colour, the skin colours again, and we used some of those for the tree, which is kind of cool. But I'm just going to go in and just deepen up a couple of shadows just to increase if I could speak, increase that contrast a little bit, not too much. Just a little bit in these shadows. And because we still haven't really put a lot of pressure on this area, we can still cover over the top, which is pretty awesome. So I'm using the Caput Mortem, and just going in and increasing these shadow areas a little bit, giving us a little bit more depth. just a little bit. Sometimes this will happen, and that's why I say don't worry if you think the skin is too dark at the start, because once you start to put in hair and things like that, you'll find it will darken or lighten up a lot, which is what happened here. It was actually quite dark in the first video, and now we've gradually added in color. It's really paled off a lot. But I think that's good. Just adding that little bit more depth. So tell me what your thoughts are anyway. But I definitely think that is a little bit better already. Just adding that tiny little bit of colour there. Just stopped her from being so flat and brought her to life a little bit more. Are we in agreement? Okay, I'm just going to add a little bit of the cinnamon. To that. Just using it to smooth it off a little bit too. Now once I'm done with this, I am going to need to use a pencil solvent. A pencil sealer or something to seal my work, because the zest it on there may make it a little bit smudgy. So I'm going to just spray it with a little bit of, I've got a Micador sealant there. Seal it and make sure that it doesn't go anywhere. Yeah, I think I'm happy with that. I think I might add a little bit more depth in the tree, maybe just on some of those darker points, just deepening them up slightly, but I'm pretty sure I'm happy with how that is now. And I hope you guys have enjoyed it. I really want to give a big huge thank you to Davidson for the last few weeks and the giveaway prizes, and for this beautiful image for us all. Don't forget, you can still grab it until the end of September 2019, and then it's available in her shop. Just for those who are watching this later on. Don't forget, if you do colour it up, to post it in their group. All of the details are in the description, and also they're in the post with the colour list as well. And in my group there's also a event in there to post it, and all the details are in there as well. I've been okay, Miranda, pretty good. Loretta. We have different football here. We have Aussie rules football. It's slightly different. It's not rugby. It's different. Not for everyone, but much better. Just really lightly going over that skin and just darkening it up. Just gradually. And I really like how it's starting to look. And I'm glad that I redid that. I think it definitely needed it. I'm nearly done. I'm nearly done. Yay. Yay! I do want to soften all of this off, so I will soften it with a little bit of the pencil blend. And I'm just going to add a tiny little bit more of the pine green. Where did that go? Just into some of these areas of the tree, because I think they could be slightly darker. Just on this side of each of these little bunches. Maybe a little bit on the bottom of those too. Because I've already put a little bit of zestet on there, it's actually quite easy to come in and just go over the top of that. The pencil comes off quite easily, and it grips a fair bit of colour. Just needed that little bit more just on those sides compared to this side. These weren't as dark, so I just wanted to deepen them up slightly. My cup of tea is going cold. I better have some of that too. Darkening it up. Where is Shadow? I don't know. Nani is somewhere, been playing with the kids probably, or sleeping. Knowing her. She's a bit of a lazy butt. Just going over the light phthalo blue a little bit. Shadow is sleeping too somewhere. I can hear her snoring, so she's not far away. Oh, Nani has got so big, and her face is changing. She's been her ears come over her forehead a lot now. It's like they're too big for her head all of a sudden. It's quite cute, but it's it's funny. So yeah, we've been teaching her new trick. She's got a few now. She knows how to shake hands. Obviously sit, stay, lay down, speak, and also now she can she can now shake hands. She's very clever. Next one we're doing is roll over. So she'll be 14 weeks on Monday. She's getting so big. It's just amazing how quickly they grow compared to a human baby. It's quite a miracle, actually, watching their little bodies grow so quickly. I did say that I might come back in with another layer of the blue, and the reason for that is because once I scan it in, this will all kind of fade out quite a lot because of such bright colours in the foreground. So I do want this to kind of stand out a little bit. So adding an extra layer will help that. Just deepen the colour slightly. And let's name her Queen Bee, Princess Bee. And I think we're good. I think we're good. I'm just going to go off over the top of it now with the Zest It and just smooth it all out now so it's nice and smooth. But that's it from me, peoples. I hope you enjoyed this one. I'll pop up the finished version. I'm going to need to clean my brush off because it's got so much blue in it now. So and I don't want the blue in her skin. Just cleaning it off as much as I can. Just so I can go over and deepen this up a little bit. And smooth it all off. Don't forget, once it dries, it lightens off too. So it won't be quite as dark once it's dry. But just smoothing off all of that colour I just laid down. Got a little bit of red from the hair actually in the we can pull out as well. Much better. I'm much happier with that. That'll also lighten off, as I said, because it's wet at the moment, so once it dries off, very happy, much better. much better contrast. Oh, there's Nani. She's speaking. She's saying hello. Darling. She's darling, darling. She's darling, darling. Is that you, Nani? Are you at my door? I can hear her. She's sooking there. I'm finished. I'm finished. I will post it up, guys. Sorry, it did take me a little bit over the, an extra 15 minutes, but I think we needed to finish that skin off. It needed it desperately. And this sky needed a little bit more depth because it kind of faded out once we put in that blue in the bottom area there. But she's awesome. Once it's dry, I'll post it up and you can see it on social media. These sections here are still quite wet, so once they're dry, I'll pop it up. Thank you so much, guys, for watching. And did you want Nani to say goodbye? Does Nani want to come and say goodbye? Nani? Would you like to say goodbye, Nani? Hello. Hello. Would you like to say goodbye? Oh. Yeah, speak. 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 No. She just got to jump. Speak.
Just woke up.
Speak. Good girl. Alright, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you on Monday. Enjoy your weekend, everybody. Good day, good night, wherever you are. And Cassandra, I will email you back. Thanks again, everybody. See you next time.